At it again. At what again, you might ask? Well, thank you for asking. The Venetian is running back-to-back deep stack series. One is called Deep Stack Showdown. This one's called Deep Stack Extravaganza. I guess Extravaganza trumps Deep Stack Showdown because, well, you get the picture. Anyway, pretty early. It's about 10 a.m. Starts at 11:10. Gonna grab some brunch with Mickey when we get there. She's driving a separate car to take care of recycling. They don't do recycling in our complex. It's a whole thing. Anyway, we're heading there now. Let's go. Apologies in advance if there are dog sounds in the background. I'm dog sitting tonight. Not confident yet about leaving her entirely to her own devices. So here we are. Welcome back to the vlog. My name is Matt Vaughan. Don't get in an uproar about it. Last time we played the 365 Venetian and cashed it for $15, being in for 2 bullets, making it $730 for a total profit of minus 15. So in this one, trying to improve on that. But we come in and right away, we're messing around with, right away, we're 3-bet 3 out of the 4 opens that we make. And so it's not the best of starts. I believe it's a 40K starting stack. In this hand, I've got 35K in the stack. Blinds are 200, 300, 300. Cutoff opens to 800. And I'm on the button with 7-6 of spades. I decided to just call, and both of the blinds come along as well, so we're forward to the flop of ace, ace, 9, 2 diamonds. Checks to me, and this hand's just too weak to stab. Both of the blinds could have an ace, and we're not really going to be able to get them to fold a whole lot other than hands that are probably not in very good shape against much anyway. Check it back. The turn is now the 9 of clubs, and it checks to me again. I feel like I probably have the most Ace-X and 9X once it checks to me twice. So I decide to bet 500, but the small blind and the cutoff both call. The river's the king of clubs, and it checks to me. At this point, I was feeling like it was likely somebody has a 9, but unlikely they have an ace. But I think that people can still slow play some pretty big hands, in particular ace-king. So I don't really love my decision here to bet 5K. I also think that I don't really need to overbet here. I could just bet small and accomplish close to the same thing. But the small blind folds, and it looks like I might get it through, but the cutoff jams. Obviously, I snap fold. I'm playing the board, but it's very unlikely we're ever facing error here. He almost always has an ace, and usually I would even say ace-king. In this next hand, 30K in the stack, 200, 400, 400. Open pocket queens in the hijack to 800. I didn't see the blinds go up, and so this is not my typical size, but it is the size I ended up with here. The button and the small blind both call, and the big blind now jams 5.9K. So at this stack depth, there are some options here. I could, 4-bet really small. I could maybe call and try to entice somebody along, but I might save that for when I have aces and something a little bit less vulnerable than queens. So here, I just decided to rejam, and everybody folds. He has pocket 7s, and the board runs out fully bricked. So we get to pick up a nice one here. First real big pot of the tournament. 40K in the stack now. I open 7-4 of spades, and the cutoff to 1.1K. The small blind and the big blind both call, and the flop comes king 10-5 rainbow. It checks through. The turn is the ace of diamonds, and it checks to me. I think now we can probably start stabbing, so I bet 2.2K, and the big blind calls. The river comes the queen of hearts, and when he checks, I think that there is, a lot of better hands that we can choose here to bluff with, obviously, but with this one, I think we just have so little showdown value, and we unblock a lot of the one-pair hands that we can probably get to fold here. So I just decided to go for it and bet 4.4K. This is a spot that's a little different from the previous one, where I think we actually probably should go bigger, but 4.4K, he tanks. He tank calls with ace-10. So this is not the day of the bluff working out for Matt so far. Really feels like I should just be kind of giving up here instead of bluffing more, but we'll see what develops. In this next hand, 33K in the stack. Middle position opens to 1.1K. The button calls, and I'm in the big blind with queen jack offsuit. Very standard call here for me, so that's what I do. The flop comes jack 9 deuce with 2 spades. I check, which I'm going to do with my whole range here multi-way, and checks through. The turn's 3 of hearts, and now with top pair, I feel like we have a pretty clear-cut value bet. So I bet 2.2k, and the button goes to 6.6k. So kind of weird spot when it checks to him, and he sort of like chooses not to bet flop and then finds a raise on turn. It really doesn't feel like he's representing anything besides maybe specifically pocket threes. And the other problem is this player so far seems pretty competent. He's somebody who I know vaguely who he is and have, not really seen him play a whole lot, but he's generally respected. And so, when he doesn't represent much besides a very weird value hand, I don't really think I'm going to release top pair. So I put in the call, and the river is now the 4 of hearts. I check, and he bets 10.5k. And, again, this is like a card that could connect with a couple bluffs, but for the most part, he's still repping very few value hands. So given that a bunch of draws missed, I decide to flick it in, and he shows us the 3 deuce of diamonds, bottom 2. Not a good feeling. Not a good feeling at all. In this next hand, we've been knocked way, way down. Not a lot of hands going our way, obviously, and not playing the best either. 16k in the stack. Middle position opens to 1k. The hijack calls. I'm on the button with king jack offsuit. I think we could choose to 3-bet here, but I decided to just call. The big blind also calls, so we go forwards to a flop of king, king, jack. Feeling a little bit silly for not 3-betting now. Feels like maybe things could have gone my way even better. Middle position, c-bets 1.7k, and I decided to flat on the button. We go heads up. Turn is the 6 of clubs, and he checks. I decided to put out a very small bet here of 2.8k. I really want to string him along, give him the opportunity to maybe raise if he has something like ace-king, but he just folds, so most likely a standard c-bet with something like 10-9, ace-queen, maybe even just a random stab. But nice to add a little bit to our stack, and in this next hand, we have 25k. Blinds are now up to 300, 500, 500, and the button, who's a capable opponent, makes it 1.2k. The small blind calls, and I'm in the big blind with ace-king of spades. I decided to bump it up to 5.1k, and the button shoves. He covers me, the small blind folds, and I, of course, snap. He has pocket deuces. So this player, he's kind of the one from a previous hand with a 3 deuce. He's really getting after it, really attacking, and so I kind of get it here, especially against my kind of sizing at my stack depth. He's going to find a lot of folds in my range, but not this time. However, he somehow finds the flip. He finds the flip with the deuces, and the board is ace, king, queen, jack, 9, and we hold for a very big double for a lot of his stack as well. Now 50k in the stack, and I'm in the cutoff with king jack offsuit, and I bump it up to 1.1k. The small blind and the big blind both call, so go 3 ways to a flop of ace 10 3. I see bet 1.1k, and the small blind calls. Turn is the queen of hearts, second heart on board, and I see it at 3.8k. Obviously, we now have Broadway, so this is pretty great that he calls. River's now the king of clubs, and he leads for 10k, which leads me to believe that we basically always chop, but technically I have the nuts, and by tournament rules I must raise, so I just go all in because it seems like we're always chopping here anyway. And he snaps with the jack 4 of hearts, so really annoying to end up chopping this one. Obviously, we probably weren't getting like a lot more on a river no matter what, unless we were chopping or losing, but even so, would have been nice to win the whole pot. 50k in the stack. Once again, the hijack opens to 1.1k. I'm in the cutoff with jack 10 suited, and I make the call. The small blind 3-bets to 4.7k, and I believe he covers me. Kind of frustrating because obviously we kind of have a spot we could have 3-bet pre and don't, and now we have a spot where we kind of feel forced into it with the price that we're getting, but it doesn't feel like we're ever really in good shape when somebody 3-bets to 10% of stacks. But we call, and the flop comes 10-4-3 rainbow. He c-bets 2.7k, and we have a very, very easy call against this down bet. The turn is the 9 of spades, and he now bets 10.6k. I call. I don't think there's really much argument to do anything else. The river comes to 7 of diamonds, and I just kind of get the sense that on the turn he picked up some equity and was barreling, and he sized up for fold equity. I mean, it's really hard to put these things into words sometimes, but that was just the impression I got. So when he bets 16.5K on the river, I think he's just trying to get me off of things that maybe missed, like really small pairs like 8s and 6s, these kinds of hands. So I take a while, but eventually call. I was right here, and he actually has the ace-jack of spades, so obviously very lucky to flop the pair, and then perhaps also lucky to get the read right this time and take this one down. So back up once again, flirting with peak stack, if not at peak stack, with 80K. The hijack makes it 1.5K. I'm in the big blind with queen 8 offsuit, and again, I find myself with a pretty standardish defend. The flop comes 7-5-3 two-tone. I check, which I would do pretty much with my whole range here, and he bets 1.1K. I decide to check raise here because I have the queen of diamonds. I have some backdoor potential here and 2 overs, and it's just a board that's going to favor the non-aggressor quite a bit. I make it 4.4K, and he calls. The turn is the queen of spades, so I make top pair, and it's a little bit tricky now because, yes, there are some hands that beat us, but we actually turn the best hand quite a bit here. When we have the queen of diamonds, he can't have king queen of diamonds, ace queen of diamonds that peel the flop, things like that, and so he can't really have just a queen that beats us almost ever. Additionally, there's only kings and aces that are overpairs on this board that beat us, so I feel pretty good that I'm beating like 8s through, jacks quite a bit. So maybe even something like 7-6 suited, ace-7 suited, hands like that. So I decided to bet 4.4K again, and he makes it 12.5K with 23K behind. I can't really make heads or tails of what he's supposed to have here. It just didn't really line up a whole lot with what I thought his range looked like. So I decided to jam. I think this is like pretty borderline. I think this is borderline at best, honestly. I think that for the most part, people are just pretty straight up in these spots, and when they reaggress over a guy who check raises flop and then they reaggress on turn, they just probably have it. So I think this is actually a fold, and it's kind of weird because we check raise flop as a bluff, we turn a good card, and now we have a value hand. But when we face a raise, like he's just really saying he's a really strong hand, and we sort of have to be very unbelieving to not fold. But I decided to jam, and he snaps with the 5-3 of hearts, which I found really interesting because while I do think he needs to call with this hand, I don't think he should raise turn with it. I think he should be more polarized than this. But who knows? Maybe he's the expert, and I'm just the idiot because I'm the one who called off with the much worse hand. We brick the river, and we ship a big pot over. My takeaway is that everyone always has it, and even if it doesn't make sense, they have it. Then again, 2 hands ago. See, 1 or 2 hands ago when I had the ace-jack of spades, call against ace-jack of spades with the jack 10 of diamonds. I don't know. Whatever. In this next hand, 40K in the stack, 300, 600, 600 blinds. Middle position, open jams 9K, and I'm in the big blind with pocket 6s. It's not a spot where you feel great because, most of his range is flipping with you, some of his range is crushing you. But the reality is a lot of people also jam deuces through 5s here. So I make the call, and he has king-jack offsuit. Board rolls out queen 9-8, 8-6. So I do win that one, chip up a bit, but at this next hand, I've chipped back down a bit to 42K. 400, 800, 800 blinds now, and I open red pocket 10s under the gun to 1.7K. Small blind jams 13K, and I, of course, snap. He has the ace-3 offsuit, so not exactly a textbook rejam. Definitely going to be a losing rejam versus an undergun open at these depths. But, again, maybe they're the experts because the board comes out ace, ace, 8, brick, and we get to lose the old, a 70%er, something like that. It feels like it's about, it should have caught up with me because, I was running so freaking hot in the other ones. It's just like, it's not even fair. It just wasn't even fair. So, fair enough. Moving on, I ended up busting here, and I guess in not a particularly consequential fashion because I don't even have the bust out hand listed. Maybe I have the video, maybe I don't. I don't know. But this one is now the second bullet. First bullet was Friday, second bullet was Saturday, and it was much softer, I will say. I also kind of beat it into my skull. I shouldn't be bluffing nearly as much. I just don't think people were finding their folds in the spots where maybe they should, maybe they shouldn't.